Okay guys, so what we need to do after we're finished analyzing our visual images here is we kind of need to get started on moving to this full rhetorical essay. So you should have this document in front of you while we're going through this. I am not going to read all of this to you. That is your job. So I would like you to pause the video, stop, and I want you to just take a cursory read of this, read through breaking down the prompt, reading the prompt, okay, until you get to page 3. Then you can stop, but I want you to take a quick read of it and then come back once you're done. So I'm assuming that by now you have read the first 3 pages of this document entitled Preparing to Write a Rhetorical Analysis Essay. So the very first thing that we're really going to stress together is breaking down the prompt, which is something that I understand that you've been doing for a really long time. But one of the difficulties of the rhetorical analysis essay in the prompt is actually figuring out what they want you to answer. Okay, so we're always looking for, of course, the elements of Space Cat, right? We're looking at the speaker and the audience and the exigence and all of that wonderful stuff. But I'm also going to ask that we do something called the command and conquer. And this is going to make sense to you as we go through this document. The whole idea is we need to know what to do and we need to know how to attack it, right? So before even reading anything, it is so important that we analyze this prompt. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to identify something called the tag, the title, the author, and the genre in the prompt. Okay, so that's easy, but I'm going to have you actually annotate on the prompt. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look for elements of exigence. So when we talk about exigence, this means that we're talking about the reason why they're writing something. So we're looking for information that's given to us in the prompt about this. This part about appositives and non-essential phrases, dependent clauses is what we call them. This is just the stuff that makes your sentences, or in this case, eventually your thesis statement, much more mature. Okay, so the whole purpose of looking for this context and looking for the exigence is so that we have more information to put into that sentence to make it more sophisticated. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the command element. So what that means is we need to figure out what we're doing. We're going to find the word analyze in our prompt, or sometimes in a variant of analyze. So maybe it's asking us to identify or summarize or describe or explain. And then we're going to take that and we're going to underline analyze to the end of the sentence. And then the next and most important thing we're absolutely going to do is we're going to do this thing where we create a command question. And this is going to give you the answer, okay, what am I actually answering here? Okay, so you should have read all this. Oh, and I forgot to say here too, of course I took a screenshot here, that this is the most important thing. When we're creating our command, that we're going to start with the word what. So you should have read all this, but I'm going to start here with you. I'm going to do one of these with you. So here's a prompt that you might get. In the following letter, Abigail Adams writes to her son, John Quincy Adams, who is traveling abroad with his father, John Adams, a United States diplomat and later the country's second president. Read the letter carefully. Then, in a well-developed essay, analyze the rhetorical strategies that Adams uses to advise her son. Support your analysis with specific references to the text. Okay, so typically as a student, we get there and we're kind of like, okay, I kind of know what I'm supposed to do here, but I really am not 100% positive about what I'm supposed to be answering. So this is why I'm telling you, I want your first steps to be the following. The first thing we're going to examine is the tag. We're looking for the title. We're looking for the author. We're looking for the genre. Okay, now, of course, I'm going to start you off with one that actually doesn't have a title. Let it go. A lot of things from that are primary resources like this don't end up having titles because it's just like this is just a letter that someone wrote or that Abigail Adams wrote. So we're going to go ahead and identify the other things. So here we go, we have Abigail Adams. So I'm going to go ahead and put an A over her for author. Then I'm looking at my genre. Okay, I know what my genre is. It's a letter. So I'm going to label it. Okay? The next thing that I am looking for is my audience. Okay, I'm going to label my audience. So let's see here. I'm going to pick a different color. You know how I like my colors. Okay, she is writing to her son, John Quincy Adams. So maybe I'm going to label that audience. Okay? And then what I'm looking for is exigence. So I'm going to go blue for my exigence. In this case, exigence is going to be any information about my author, any information about my audience, any information about something that's happening kind of in the world around us at this time. So what's important here, and I'm going to star this stuff, is to know that John Quincy Adams is traveling with his father, and to know that he is a diplomat at the time and that he is eventually going to become the president. That's exigent, so I'm labeling that with stars. Okay, now, this is the part where we start to make our conquer and our command. So the very first thing is I'm going to find the word analyze or a similar command word. So I'm looking at the bottom of my prompt now. Then, in a well-developed essay, analyze the rhetorical strategies Adams uses to advise her son. There it is. There's my analyze. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to underline that to the end of that sentence. That's what it's asking me to do. Now I'm going to start looking for my conquer. So what I am looking for is the infinitive. An infinitive is when a word starts with to, or a phrase starts with to and then is followed by a verb. So we're always looking for that. In the part that we have underlined, we're looking for an infinitive, and that is the word to plus a verb. Okay, so here it is. To advise her son. This is what I'm focusing on. Okay, this is how I want you to annotate a prompt. What we're going to do right now, though, is we're going to go through and we're going to say, okay, we're going to fill in our chart just for practice sake. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, okay, a title. Now, I don't actually have a title, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of combine the genre and the audience, and I'm going to title it Letter to Her Son. Okay, I'm going to fill in my author. We know this. I'm going to fill in my genre. My speaker, sometimes your speaker and your author are different. And of course the audience is John Quincy Adams. Okay, I'm going to fill in my exigence here. So I'm going to write son is traveling abroad, that it's written to her son traveling abroad. I'm going to write traveling with father, who is a diplomat. I know it's going to be within those years somewhere, and I cheated a little bit, and I looked right at the beginning of the text, which you don't have yet, but you know, I'm just kind of using my resources here, and I know that it's 1780, so I'm going to put that in there too. I'm cheating. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to switch my color here again, is I'm going to look at my command. So we know that my command is analyze the rhetorical strategies Adams uses to advise her son, right? It's right up here. This is our one sentence. Here's the deal. I need to turn that into a question so that I, in fact, have something to write my thesis about. It helps us accomplish this main idea. So the first thing is I look at the command section with a double underline. It says to advise her son. And I need to ask myself, okay, what don't I know that is going to be reflected in the text, that I need to read the text to find out. And it always, always, always has to start with the word what. So if I look at this, I'm creating my conquer question, analyze the rhetorical strategies Adams uses to advise her son. My natural question, I'm looking at to advise her son, starts with what? What does Abigail Adams advise her son? Right? It makes sense. If I need to see the advice she uses to advise her son, then I better be able to tell my audience what the advice is that she gives to her son. And this is ultimately one of the main things that you're going to be writing about. Without this command, without this conquer question, sometimes we're lost about what to focus on. So then it leads me to figuring out, okay, well, what am I actually going to do? What am I actually going to answer here? Okay, and in this case, this is where we actually need to read our text to figure out what is the advice that she's giving her son. So later, we're going to come back after we read this, and we're going to fill in, like, what is the thing that she's telling her son about? What is she trying to persuade him about? And we'll fill in that our advice, and that becomes what we're writing about. Okay? So, what I would like you to do is I would like you to try the same thing, underlining, identifying, follow the instructions in your packet for prompt number 2, for prompt number 3, and then we're going to do prompt number 4 together in class. Okay? We're going to use this as a way to transitioning to thesis statements. So again, what you needed to do in this video, you should have read up to page 3, where you got to these charts. What you're going to be doing is, hopefully you followed along with me with the Abigail Adams prompt, you're going to be dissecting the prompt for Madeleine Albright's speech, and also Benjamin Banneker, okay? So again, this is a letter that he wrote to Benjamin Banneker. This is a commencement speech that Madeleine Albright gave. So good luck with that. I will post an answer key for you to check after you are finished and see how yours compares to mine. Okay, thanks.